She looked me dead in the eye and said, "I'm not cutting ties with my ex just because you're feeling threatened." Fine. Fair enough. I didn't argue. Instead, I accepted a job offer in Amsterdam that I'd turned down 3 times just to stay close to her, thinking she'd finally understand where my priorities were. Reality hit her when she pulled up to my place ready to talk things out, only to have some random guy open the door because I'd already moved out and sublet the apartment. Anyway, quick disclaimer before we dive in. This is a throwaway account, because the situation got way too real, and I don't need old drama crawling back. But if you're here for relationship justice, served with a side of karma, buckle up. This is how my ex, Emily, unintentionally pushed me straight into a better life, with nothing but betrayal as the catalyst. Am I the jerk for finally choosing myself after years of being her emotional doormat? Pretty sure I'm not. We met 4 years ago at a friend's birthday in downtown. She was a bright-eyed marketing grad, ready to conquer the corporate world, and I was finally settling into my career as a software engineer. We instantly clicked over terrible karaoke and long talks about life goals. I fell hard, and she made me believe she did too. Early on, she told me about her ex, Jake, apparently a spontaneous, thrill-seeking type who loved last-minute road trips and quitting jobs like hobbies. She made him sound like chaos, and me like the stable upgrade. Solid job, savings, future plans. But somewhere down the line, our relationship tilted when she lost her job and spiraled into career anxiety. I stepped up, paid her rent, helped with resumes, connected her to my network until she finally landed a digital marketing role. Things felt balanced again, until Jake slid back in. First it was harmless check-ins, then memes, long calls, inside jokes, her laughing at his travel posts like he was living the life she secretly wanted. Any time I brought it up, she brushed me off with, "Don't be insecure. Jake's just part of my past." Except that past kept showing up in our present. I'd come home exhausted and hear her venting to him about her problems instead of talking to me. One night, I walked in and saw her scrolling through old photos. One of her wrapped around Jake on some beach, sunlit and carefree like a postcard from a life she clearly missed. When I asked why she still kept those pictures, she blew up, saying, "You don't erase memories just because someone new shows up. Stop acting paranoid." I wasn't paranoid. I was loyal, invested, maybe too trusting for my own good. While things with her stayed emotionally messy, my career started to skyrocket. 2 years into dating, I was offered a senior role at our Amsterdam office. Massive raise, relocation benefits, a chance to work on cutting-edge AI, and basically a golden ticket to a new life. But she panicked at the idea of moving, saying she wasn't ready to uproot her life, that her friends and family were here, and unbelievably, that Jake needed support because he was going through things. Somehow, his crisis mattered more than our future. I turned down the offer. She cried into my chest, telling me I was her anchor, that she couldn't imagine life without me. Then the offer came again 6 months later, even better than before. She was doing fine at work by then, but still hesitated and said the timing wasn't right. And oh yeah, Jake was in another emotional spiral. I declined again, convincing myself I was being a good partner. My boss told me I was throwing away a once-in-a-lifetime career jump. By the time the third offer arrived, we were fraying at the seams. She and Jake were constantly meeting for casual coffees, sending late-night texts she'd hide the second I walked in, and dropping comparisons like, "Jake just launched his travel blog, he's really chasing his dreams," while calling my ambition predictable, even though I was the one covering expenses and supporting her through every meltdown. When Amsterdam resurfaced for the third time, I brought it up during dinner, telling her it could transform our future. She shrugged, saying she was fine where she was, and implying the only reason I wanted to move was jealousy. I told her I wasn't jealous. I just needed boundaries because the way she treated Jake felt like emotional infidelity. She rolled her eyes and shot back, "Wow, emotional cheating? That's dramatic. I'm not cutting off my ex just because you're insecure." She tossed out that familiar line, "People can stay friends after breaking up." Seriously, grow up. And it hit harder than I expected. I'd put my own career on pause, turned down life-changing promotions, and reshaped my future around her comfort. Yet somehow, I was the immature one. I sat there quietly, staring at my dinner, feeling every declined opportunity sit on my chest like dead weight. I didn't argue this time. I just muttered, "Yeah, fair," stood up, went to the bedroom, and finally replied to that Amsterdam email with a simple, "I accept." No speech, no confrontation, just the first decision in a long time that was genuinely for me. From there, everything slowly unraveled. Emily carried on as if nothing had shifted, still messaging Jake openly, posting cryptic stories about honoring old bonds, while I quietly sublet my apartment, wrapped up projects at work, and packed boxes while she was out. Every night, I walked the city alone, wondering how I'd spent years putting someone first who saw me as a placeholder. I wasn't angry anymore, just done. The breaking point came about a month before I left. She'd been coming home late more often, claiming girls' nights, but liking Jake's posts from bars where he was clearly with other women, acting like some free-spirited hero in her narrative. One night she stumbled in, slightly buzzed, collapsed on the couch, and sighed. "We need to talk." I knew exactly where this was headed. I sat across from her, calm, collected, ready in a way I hadn't been before, and simply said, "All right, go ahead." She sat there scrolling on her phone like she was drafting arguments instead of talking to me. Then finally said, "This just isn't working. You're smothering me with all this jealousy. Jake and I are friends, but you keep turning it into drama. I need space to figure myself out." Space? Right. Space that conveniently looked a lot like her ex. When I asked if that space included Jake, she gave me that smug half smile and said, "See? That's exactly what I mean. Jake actually understands me. He's exciting, spontaneous. We have real conversations without judgment, or you're just safe, predictable, always planning everything. You even bailed on Amsterdam because you were scared to take risks." I almost laughed at the rewrite of reality, but kept my cool and said I'd turned it down for her 3 times. She waved her hand like it was nothing and said she deserved someone who didn't clip her wings, and that, while she wasn't officially going back to Jake, they were hanging out more, and it was mostly platonic, unlike me who was apparently holding her back. So I asked if she was choosing him over us, and she scoffed like I was the crazy one. Why does it have to be a choice? But if it is, then yeah, I'm not cutting him off because you're threatened. That's manipulative. If you trusted me, you'd chill. This from the same person who guilt-tripped me into staying in the country while emotionally orbiting her ex. Then she leaned back, arms crossed like she was delivering a verdict, and said we should take a break, maybe long-term, and that she'd stay with a friend so I could reflect on how controlling I've been. I didn't fight, didn't plead. I just told her if that was what she wanted, she was free to go. That threw her off. She stood there expecting a meltdown, asking why I wasn't begging her to stay. I told her I wasn't going to argue with the decision she'd clearly already made. She stormed out, declaring I'd regret it because no one would tolerate my boring life. And the door slammed so hard the walls shook. When the silence settled, I sat on the balcony with a drink, letting the ache hit me. Years of loyalty reduced to accusations, boundaries framed as control. I considered telling her about Amsterdam, making her understand what she'd pushed away. But that would have been desperation, and I was done performing loyalty for someone who didn't value it. Instead, I texted my boss confirming the move, then blocked her number. Not as revenge, but to protect whatever was left of me. The next day I finalized the listing for my apartment, packed the last boxes, and quietly said goodbyes. No emotional posts, no explanations, just movement. The confusion lingered though, late nights asking myself if I'd been irrational, or if all along she'd been rewriting the narrative to excuse emotional betrayal. A therapist friend told me it sounded like abandonment masked as independence, and that validation helped. But healing still took time. I didn't try to rush it. I focused on logistics, shipping my stuff, closing projects, hitting the gym to clear my head. Slowly, the shock faded, and and something steadier took its place, a quiet, unshakable resolve. Stood in front of the mirror one morning and finally said it out loud. This is my life now. No more living in someone else's shadow. A few days after the breakup, Emily tried to pull me back in, reaching out through a mutual friend's phone with a vague, "Hey, it's me. My phone's bugging out. Can we talk? I didn't mean for things to end like that." I let the message sit unread. Then came an email accusing me of being immature and asking to meet like adults. Still didn't bite. She started telling people I'd ghosted her out of spite, and friends relayed the gossip. Didn't correct her version. I just replied with neutral lines like, "We wanted different things." I wish her well. No drama. And I certainly wasn't broadcasting my move overseas. The day before my flight, I handed my apartment keys to the new tenant, a quiet grad student who had no idea he was stepping into the aftermath of a breakup. I checked into an airport hotel that night, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Total autonomy. Landing in Amsterdam felt like stepping into a different timeline. Canals, clean air, new co-workers who welcomed me instantly, weekend trips, challenging projects, a cozy apartment right by a park. I started picking up Dutch, museum hopping on Sundays, and letting clarity replace heartbreak. While I built a new life, updates from home trickled in. Emily and Jake eventually made things official, posting couple pics at festivals like a rebranded version of their college fling. I didn't feel bitter, just unsurprised. But the fantasy didn't last. I heard through friends that Jake was drowning in debt from all those spur-of-the-moment road trips he romanticized, had no steady work beyond side gigs, and Emily quit her marketing job to travel full-time with him, burning through the savings she'd built while I was supporting her. Friends peeled away, especially after she was overheard trash-talking me to justify her choices. Then reality hit. Arguments over money, Jake flirting with other women, and eventually ditching her in some random town and making her pay the bill. She crawled back home, broke, unemployed, and living off credit. Her posts shifted from bragging freedom to vague, healing, and lessons quotes. Even her family grew tired of the chaos. Professionally, she couldn't bounce back. The abrupt resignation tanked her reputation, and the connections she relied on were ones I'd helped her form. When someone in a group chat mentioned I'd relocated to Amsterdam and was thriving, she apparently went silent, then unfollowed everyone. Meanwhile, I was settling into my new rhythm, planning weekend trips across Europe, crushing my projects at work, even casually dating, without feeling chained to anyone's emotional baggage. Karma didn't come as some dramatic wrecking ball. It showed up quietly, in parallel timelines. While she unraveled from the consequences of her choices, I was building the life she once mocked as boring. Turns out, the stability she took for granted wasn't a cage. It was fuel, and without her it finally ignited. I kept reminding myself, I'm living my life now, not auditioning for a role in hers. So when the fallout from her choices finally hit her, the attempts to crawl back started quietly and then snowballed. About 3 months after my move, an email slipped into my work inbox. She tried, but I'd blocked her personal accounts. "Hey, heard you're in Amsterdam. Congrats, I guess. Things ended messy, but I miss talking. Jake wasn't who I thought he was. Can we reconnect? Just as friends." I read it from a cafe with cyclists zipping past and simply archived it. No anger, just closure. Then came texts from random numbers. "It's Emily. Please answer. I made mistakes. Jake was controlling. I should have appreciated you." Calls followed. Long voicemails full of apologies, regret, and revisionist history. I was arrogant. "You didn't deserve that. I'll fly out to see you. Just talk to me." When I said nothing, the tone darkened. "Why are you being so cold? My family's worried. At least respond." Then the flying monkeys arrived. Her sister DM'd me calling me a coward, claiming Emily was crying non-stop and that I owed her closure. Her mother even called, saying, "Be mature, she's family. Help her get back on her feet." I blocked each of them. More voicemails came, now venomous. "You're heartless. Bet you're loving this. Jake was right. You're boring and vindictive." The irony was almost comical. She branded me insecure for asking for boundaries, but now I was the villain for not saving her from the consequences of the choices she made without me. One mutual friend finally messaged, exhausted, "She's blowing up my phone to reach you. Her sister's trash-talking you. It's a mess." Meanwhile, her messages shifted from insults to desperation. "I'm broke. Might lose my apartment. You helped me before. Please." The power dynamic had flipped. She wasn't choosing freedom anymore. She was begging the safety net she once mocked. The final collision happened at a friend's wedding back home. My first trip back to the States in 6 months. Outdoor venue, string lights, laughter. I was catching up with friends, healthy, confident, sun-kissed from biking everywhere in Amsterdam. Then she appeared, hair unkempt, dress wrinkled, eyes swollen. She pulled me aside at the bar, voice shaking. "Alex, you look incredible. I flew home early when I heard you were coming. Please, we need to talk. Jake cheated, drained my money, left me stranded. I can't get hired. Everyone's gone. I see now you are my stability. Let me come to Amsterdam. We can rebuild." She was begging for the life she once dismissed as boring. I set down my glass and kept my voice calm, detached, almost administrative. "I'm glad you figured out what you want, but that chapter's done. I've built a new life, new city, new purpose, new me. You're not part of that." Tears welled, anger flared. "That's it? After everything?" I smiled politely and replied, "Exactly. After everything." Then I walked away, not triumphant, not bitter, just finally free.